And you could get on that link and make sure we're this is working. Your Mike, are you on here? Okay. Let's see. That's weird. Now it's repeating my. Okay. Why is it doing this? What are you hearing? Okay, but it's repeating it on my computer. I wonder why this is. Let's see. I wonder what's going on. What's happening now? Okay, I had two windows open. I figured it out. Mom, can you see me? And can you see the screen? And it sounds okay? I just muted myself. I don't want you people to hear this. I need you to you could just bring your computer like right here so I can. I had two windows open, so all right. Hopefully, I don't know if anyone's joining yet, but we'll see in a minute. It's not advancing. Shoot, it's not advancing. It's like frozen. Yeah, just come here. It's not. I'm advancing. My name is not advancing. Get out of it. Get back in. Mike's seeing it. Mike's seeing it scrolling. Yeah. Okay. All right, those of you that are hopping on, we'll get started in just another minute or two. We're just making sure that the technology is working today. We had a black screen last time I did this, so I want to make sure we don't have that today. So just hang tight. We will get started in just a minute. Don't want to keep people waiting today. Just comment if there's any problem. All right. Well, like I said, I don't want to keep people waiting. I appreciate those that are joining on a Friday afternoon again. Great to have you joining today. Just as a reminder, or not a reminder, some of you maybe were on here last month. I'm Dr. Jacob Jensen. I'm a sports psychology consultant, certified mental performance consultant. I am doing a lot of work now in Naples, Florida. I'm also a professor in California, but I'm teaching a lot online and working in Florida a lot now on mental training. Tennis is my background. I love doing mental training on tennis, and just want to thank CTA for setting this up, for inviting me back. It's great to be back, and also to Michael Carter and the DMP app for allowing me to have this opportunity. So today I'm going to be talking about imagery, and it's a skill that we all have. And I think we all do it at certain times, but I'm not sure we always do it in the very best way possible. So sometimes equivalent terms that we use would be visualization, mental rehearsal, mental practice, but it's basically that idea of recreating an experience in our mind. And a lot of times we use visualization, but when you think about visualization, that is just the visual image of what you're imagining. We want to make it as real as possible. So that involves using other senses than just the visual sense. So basically, imagery involves all of the senses. So not only seeing yourself do something, but also different senses. So kinesthetic would be the actual feeling of the movement pattern. So if I'm watching or imagining myself serving, I'm not just watching myself. I'm also imagining what does that feel like to have the racket in my hand, to have whatever my backswing is, to brush up on the ball. Maybe I'm feeling that pronation of the wrist. I'm actually feeling the movement pattern itself. Uh, Also, we have tactile. So, what does the racket actually feel like in my hand? So, if I'm imagining or visualizing, I'm not just seeing it, but I'm also actually feeling that racket in my hand, feeling the movement pattern. If it's a forehand, a backhand, a volley, I can actually feel that. Um, if you any of you watched the recent Winter Olympics, quite a few of the skiers would be at the top of the course, and you could actually see them closing their eyes and imagining skiing down the run, skiing the course, and they would actually move their body as they were doing that with their eyes closed. I don't think you have to do that. You don't have to necessarily involve movement into the exercise, but you do want to make it as real as possible. So with tennis, even the auditory, hearing the bounce of the ball, hearing the sound of the ball as it makes contact with the strings, that sound when you hit that sweet spot. If there's pickleball players on here, there's a very definite sound with that pickleball that it makes. So we want to involve all of the senses. If you're playing with a lot of people watching, maybe it's a big tournament or a big match where you've got lots of people coming to watch the league finals, for example, you would want to imagine maybe some of the sounds around you as well, and then how you're going to not just get distracted by that. And imagery also involves moods and emotions. So I work with athletes on, if you're imagining yourself getting frustrated, you can stop and reset in your mind. And the more we can practice these things while we're off the court, it helps us to then do it on the court. It's a great way to get more mental reps in. You can't necessarily be out there on the court hours and hours every day, but taking 5-10 minutes to imagine yourself out there with certain skill, handling a pressure moment, it's a great skill to have. And again, I think we all have that ability to use visualization or imagery. We just don't always do it in a very systematic or a very smart way. So, also, when you're thinking about doing imagery, I want you to also incorporate some of the moods and emotions that you want to have out there. So, how are you staying calm and cool when it's a huge point? You're serving for the match. If you miss a shot and you get frustrated, seeing yourself, okay, you can get frustrated for 5 seconds and then being able to move on from that. So it's a great way, again, to practice how you're going to handle different challenging situations that are going to happen for all of us in sports. Those pressure moments, those when we miss a shot, how do we move on from that? Uh, in terms of using imagery, it can be used for so many different ways. It's a great way to improve our focus or our concentration. We can imagine ourselves staying really focused in a big point. We can we can imagine building our confidence. So again, if you're working on a shot, let's say you don't have a lot of confidence in your overhead, you can imagine yourself hitting 20 overheads perfectly in a row. I have a friend who works with an NBA team, and she actually makes some of her NBA players imagine shooting 100 free throws in a row without missing. And then they have to start over if they imagine one missing. And some of them really resisted it at first, but the more they did it, the more they would just got comfortable going, hey, if I can mentally see myself hitting 100 free throws, then I can go out there in a game and hit, a lot less than 100. So it's a great way to build confidence in a skill. A few minutes ago, I talked about controlling your emotions out there. I don't care who you are. There's moments as a tennis player, pickleball player, whatever your sport is. Most of you on here are probably either pickleball or tennis players. there's going to be times where you get frustrated and and sometimes even angry. I work with junior tennis players that get angry if their opponent makes a terrible call. It happens to adults as well. So imagining again, resetting. If you get angry or frustrated, imagining yourself taking a few deep breaths, getting back into a healthier emotional state. It's a great way to practice a skill, whether that's a new skill that you're working on, getting better at, or just reinforcing the skills that you already have. Also, problem solving. We can use imagery to, and with tennis, even thinking about strategy is a great way. And interestingly, there's imagery to cope with pain and adversity. There's also healing imagery, like cancer. Actually, imagine um, they if you're going through like radiation or chemotherapy, you actually imagine like a little bullet attacking the cancer cells, and they're finding that this is helping people go into remission faster. The mind is incredibly powerful, and using imagery is a great way of reinforcing again many different skills, but also imagining. I fractured my ankle a few years ago and actually imagined the swelling going down, and I think it really helped. Imagining the pain dispersing. So there's I could go on and on about that, talking about the benefits of imagery, but it's a very powerful skill to have. And what's interesting is I don't want to bore you with research, but some of the research is showing that just like we build muscle memory by actually going out and practicing something, by mentally imagining or rehearsing, we build up that same muscle memory that we have. So it's really powerful. It also activates our neuromuscular system. So it's actually firing neurons in our body the same way if we were actually going out and practicing. So it's pretty cool when you look at the research supporting the use of imagery now. So I wanted to emphasize there's two major perspectives on imagery. One is an internal and one is external. So I want everybody just take that's on here. I want you to take about 10 seconds. So go ahead and if you're able to close your eyes, I want everyone to close your eyes. If you're driving or something, please do not close your eyes. But if you're in a space that you can close your eyes, I want you to just close your eyes. Take a couple of deep breaths to just kind of get settled. Then I want you to imagine, well, I'll give you about a minute. I want you to pick one skill from your sport. It can be a skill that you're very confident in. For me, that would be my forehand. I love my forehand. Or it can be a skill that you're trying to work on, maybe your overhead or your serve, or whatever that is. Either way, I want you to take about 1 minute and just picture yourself doing that skill the best that you possibly can. So maybe hit 10 or 15 shots as well as you can and see if you can control that. Keep it successful, keep it positive. So I'm just going to give everybody about 1 minute. Don't try to do it the right way or a certain way. Just see what happens when you close your eyes, pick a skill that you're good at or that you're working on, and just imagine that for about 1 minute, seeing yourself doing it as successfully, as well, as perfectly as you can. So I'll be silent now for about a minute and just see yourself practicing that skill or hitting that shot exactly the right way. All right. If I were teaching a class right now, I would ask for some feedback. But what I want you to think about is when you were doing that, imagining yourself with the skill that whatever you chose. For me, it was my forehand. I imagined myself hitting about 15 forehands. Was it from the external or the third person perspective, watching yourself like you were watching yourself on video, or whereas it more from the first person or the internal, whereas it was like you were out on the courts and you were seeing the ball coming at you and hitting it. It's an interesting thing for me. It actually this time started out like I was watching myself, and then it switched to me being out on the court, seeing the ball coming from that internal perspective. So it's interesting to kind of some of us definitely default to one perspective over the other, but it's often helpful to do both. If you're trying to correct like some technique, it's very helpful sometimes to watch from more of an external perspective, that third person video camera perspective. If you're really trying to get the feel of what you're doing, so the feel of the actual movement pattern, then it can be very helpful to jump into more of an internal perspective. But I'm always interested when I work with athletes on developing some imagery sessions for them to do, is to see what they default more to. Um, Research definitely shows that as we get more skilled and advanced, we tend to do more internal imagery versus the external. But neither one is right or wrong. They're both valid perspectives to have, and I don't want you worrying about one being more successful than the other. It's just interesting to kind of know what somebody defaults more to when doing the imagery. And you can play around with this with different skills. So again, with athletes, I'll have them often to reinforce confidence in a skill that they're already very confident in, but also to work on and choose some of those skills that they don't feel as confident in. But it's interesting to just think about what your perspective is when you're doing that. So when I'm developing an imagery training program with an individual, I obviously want to tailor it to their individual needs, their abilities, their interests. So I first of all want to just see how easy it is for somebody to imagine. I start out with a very simple imagery where I actually have somebody imagine a happiness room where it's like if you could just decorate any room exactly how you'd want, you could put whatever you want in it. It can be as big as you want, as small. I do that just to kind of see how easy is that for somebody to do. And it's interesting. Some people are very easy time doing that, decorating it, creating it, and other people really struggle with that. So it's interesting to just kind of see where somebody's imagery ability is at. And if they struggle with that, then I keep it very, very simple at first, and then we build that skill. If that's very easy to be like very vivid, very, very easy to develop something just as simple as like in your mind creating a happiness room, then I know that we can jump more into more kind of advanced imagery sessions. With tennis, when I create these, I have all the language and vocabulary with my tennis background. When I do it with other sports, I often involve the athlete in helping me know the language of, I want you imagining using their vocabulary and the language of what their sport is. But obviously with tennis, it's very simple. I know all the language, the terminology. So when I'm having somebody imagine a serve, but there's sometimes some things like they're working with their coach on that I want to implement into the imagery, and that's very helpful to get the athlete's feedback with that. Um, it's interesting for me, like I play the piano and I imagine myself playing pieces like before a recital from as early as I could remember, 8, 9, 10 years old. It's just seemed very natural as I was sitting there waiting, to perform. I would just play my piece in my lap 20, 30 times over. I would hear the notes in my head. I would even move my fingers and then by the time I got up there to perform, it was like, well, I've already rehearsed this 20, 30 times. I'm ready. Tennis is something I've had to learn how to do as I got into sports psychology. But my guess is if you think, most of you on here, if you think about it, a lot of you've probably done it with certain skills in your life and not even been aware that you were doing it. So it's a skill that we all can develop. We all have. It's just getting more systematic with doing it. I'm getting some interesting questions in. One was, can I use visualization and imagery to improve my net game? Absolutely. I think imagining yourself being more aggressive at net, moving, keeping your volleys short. If it's more technical, you can imagine exactly how you want that volley to feel. Uh, sometimes taking the pace off the ball, uh, putting a little more underspin on it. You can also imagine, like for myself, it's not easy to poach in doubles. That's still something that I hesitate on. So I'm doing it right now. I'm imagining myself cutting off more balls. So absolutely, it can be more technical if that's what you need, but it also can be strategic and seeing yourself uh, volleying the way that you want to in doubles. Um, Couple of questions. Another one: what is a good way to use visualization and imagery in order to feel more confident and calm when playing a match? So this is where I talked about where you can actually see yourself playing a point, behaving on the court the way that you want to, feeling confident, feeling calm, incorporating some deep breaths, even as you do that on the court. But you can also imagine yourself actually doing it as you're doing the visualization and imagery. Imagining yourself kind of slowing down the pace, making sure you're taking the 20, 25 seconds in between points, repeating a calming word to yourself, like calm and collected on the court. All of this that you need to do on the court, though, you can practice off the court through this imagery. So that's a great question. What part of a player's game can be most improved by using visualization and imagery? I think that's a tough question because it can be used for so many different ways. I definitely have seen different levels use it for different reasons. Great way to get more reps if you're working on a skill. So beginner to intermediate players can absolutely use it to, see yourself hitting your forehand 100 times the way that you've been working with your coach on, or developing more of a slice serve or a kick serve and seeing that in your mind. But then for more advanced players, again, a lot of it's handling your emotions on the court, resetting in your mind after a double fault or a missed opportunity. So there's so many different ways, and this is where I would love to talk to people individually to see, what your needs are with imagery. But I'm obviously happy to do that as well. I offer individual sessions and packaging as part of what I do as well. Uh, some things to think about when doing imagery is when being in a proper setting. So the being in a place that's not you're not going to get distracted. I like to do it I have like kind of a meditation chair I use. I like to do it sitting, but quiet. Or you want to be in a relaxed kind of state when you're doing it away from your sport, taking a few deep breaths. I will, moving forward, be posting some examples of like a 5 to 10 minute imagery session, maybe just a generic one on certain aspects of racket sports to give you a sense of that. I think that would be a good idea. Doing it in real time, as much as you can pace yourself the same as you would if you're actually doing that skill. You don't want to be, imagining yourself hitting forehands like a rapid fire. Try to do it in the real time. If you're playing a tennis match, imagine a point and then taking the 20 seconds, 25 seconds until you move on to the next point. Obviously, as tennis players, pickleball players, we're not going to imagine an entire match, but choosing those kind of key pivotal moments. Sometimes you actually know your opponent, so you might have a strategy that you're actually imagining how you're going to play a certain opponent. If you don't know your opponent, then keeping it more focused on what you have control over, your own shots. So that can be very useful and helpful as well. Keeping it vivid, which means, again, using all the senses. So as real as possible, not just what you're seeing, but what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. And then controlling it. So this is sometimes what happens is I ask a player, I want you to imagine 10 serves successfully, and they start defaulting to double faulting or to missing the serve. So that case, we may have to take a step back and go, okay, let's simplify it down to just seeing a certain part of your serve that you're trying to work on, not worrying about the result. So you want to keep it controllable. If you're making mistakes and you don't want to do that, then that's maybe move to a different skill or simplify it down to you're just seeing like one aspect of your footwork or something that you're trying to work on. I have a university collegiate, very, very good player that I'm working with right now, and she really feels like her footwork is going in matches. So we might just isolate it to really imagining the way she wants to be moving out there, how she wants to be setting up with her shots, not necessarily even seeing the full swing or the result, but just focusing on imagining her footwork and keeping that sharp, because her game, when she's moving, keeping her feet moving and setting up and positioning, plays much better. Overall, I like to keep the imagery sessions very positive, keeping a very positive focus. Exceptions to that would be, again, maybe imagining missing a first serve and then being able to reset and hit a great second serve, or losing a big point, a match point, and being able to move, mentally imagine rehearsing, moving on to the next point and playing that well and not letting that snowball. We all know that tennis matches, pickleball, things can change very, very quickly. So you don't want to have that snowball effect if you make a mistake. So sometimes imagining again how you want to handle an error, an unforced error, a pivotal, key moment in the match. But overall, the more we can keep it positive is really important. So practicing imagery, again, I talked about the happiness room. I encourage everybody to imagine one skill. We did it for just about a minute earlier, but I would encourage you sometime, tonight, this weekend, is to really get yourself in a comfortable position. I like to do it in a chair, but you take some deep breaths, really get yourself kind of settled, and then just take a 3-4 minutes and really imagine one skill, one aspect of your game, your sport that you want to work on. And one thing I like to also, athletes I work with, is to develop your own personal highlight reel. So imagining maybe moments from some of your best matches, imagining your strengths. And athletes really like to do this before for matches. It helps get them in a confident mindset. So somebody asked, like, how can I, get confident before matches or before I go out and perform, is think about like watching your own personal highlight reel, and what does that feel like? What is that? How does that make you feel? One thing I didn't really mention before is motivation. Imagery can also be used for motivation. There's nothing wrong with seeing yourself being successful, seeing yourself winning a match. I think you have to be careful not to put too much pressure on yourself doing that, but I think there's nothing wrong with seeing yourself being successful. I just like to break it down, though, to also seeing yourself performing the skills necessary that are going to get you the result that you ultimately want. But again, I encourage everyone. You can even do this with athletes. I have them imagine this happiness room, and then I have them imagine a big screen TV somewhere on the wall. And they imagine themselves turning that screen on and actually watching themselves performing that skill or their personal highlight reel. What's very interesting is sometimes they go to that external perspective where they're just watching themselves like on a screen. And then sometimes they almost like jump onto the screen, and it becomes the court and they see themselves more from that internal perspective. Again, it's not right or wrong either way. It's just interesting to see kind of what people default to. But that's a great way, is just kind of getting yourself settled in this comfortable space, and then imagining a screen, and you're going to watch yourself. And it doesn't need to be long. 2-3 minutes is all to really make a difference with that. So that's one exercise, and I can post on we can get a link to some examples of this, and I'll talk to Michael Carter about getting a couple examples of these imagery. I call them imagery scripts. I actually record these for the athletes that they can then listen to. Sometimes athletes do much better when they have a voice taking them through the guided imagery rather than just doing it on their own. So that's another thing I can give some examples of. But this is just a very simple imagery exercise that I would encourage a lot of you to try sometime, tonight or this weekend. So we had a few questions. I don't know if there's any others, but I'm again happy to, if you want to reach out to me personally and ask questions, I will do my absolute best to respond. I don't know if we have any more that have come in since I've been talking. And if they do, I can go back to that. I want to just thank one of our new sponsors, Posh Paws. If you have pets, check them out or refer them. We do have some watch parties coming up soon for the BNP Paribas Open and the Miami Open. So emails will be coming out about that. Also, thank our other sponsors, UBS, Bonehook Brewery, and Lawton and Smith Realty. You should all be seeing messages in your DMP app. Great resource support there. You can reach out and contact me there. We also have coming up in March a local trainer, Jeff Zink, will be talking about tennis and golf elbow. I assume how to manage it, how to prevent it. I'll be doing another mental strength at the end of March, so that's upcoming. So lots of good resources and things coming up moving forward. But I just want to thank everyone again. Again, if you have questions, you want to know more about the imagery, feel free to reach out to me. We will be sending out some follow-up emails and everything moving forward. So you can always, and you can contact me as well. But thank you again. It's been great to be on here, and look forward look forward to the next one. All right. Thanks everyone. Have a great Friday and weekend moving forward.